Dr. Chukumba here from InterSearchMedia. I have run hundreds of campaigns and managed literally billions in Google ad spend, and I'm going to condense my 17 years of experience into a few minutes here and show you how you can get the best value out of whichever digital advertising network you choose. Here's how you do it. The first thing you want to do when you're considering which network to continue or which network to get rid of is you have to do an analysis of the return on ad spend. So here's an example from my new book, Digital Marketing Like an Economist. Let's take a few networks: Facebook, email, Google Ads, and social media. Let's look at the time that we spend on them, because our time is part of our calculation of opportunity costs. So for Facebook, we're spending about 20 minutes of our time a week. Email, about 15% of our time is going into that. GA is going into about 10% of our workload time, and we're spending about 20% of our time on social. We've got lots of time that we do other things with, all right? So it's not gonna equal 100% in this example. But the return on ad spend is, for Facebook, 45%, email 35%, GA 2%, and for social, it's 10%. So which networks should you avoid and which networks should you continue or double down on? Well, according to Digital Marketing Like an Economist and the Pareto principle, where pretty much most of your traffic is going to come from one or two networks, in this example, what we would want to do is spend most of our budget on Facebook, some on email, and then we need to eliminate GA and think a little bit more about whether we should change some of that content on social, because it is giving us some return on investment, but perhaps not as much as we could get in other places. So when you consider the economics of digital marketing, it takes you to a whole different place. If you're looking to actually get the most out of your networks, you have to know how much time you're spending on them and what the return on that time is. So once you understand which networks are working for you, you can use this kind of analysis with anything. But the key is you have to collect data. With my 17 years of experience, when we see clients who are collecting data, it helps us easily recognize what's wrong. And for example, we typically don't even work with clients who are just getting started. We like to work with clients we can optimize. Small businesses who have at least 3-4 years of data. So we can go into a Google Ads account and tell them, hey, this could be the best campaign for you to run based on this type of analysis. So this doesn't have to be networks. This could be a Google Ads account, and this could be a PMax campaign, this could be a search campaign, and this could be a display campaign, and we would do a similar analysis and let a business know, hey, using economic Pareto principles, this is what you should be doing, and this is what you should be avoiding. Now, we can also add variables to this analysis. What do I mean? We can add, and we kept this simple at the start, but there's something that's missing here. We never added price, right? So we can add some sort of dollar amount and say, hey, this is what we're spending. We're spending, $10K on Facebook. Our email budget is costing us, $5K. GA it costs us, $13K, and social only costs us, in terms of what we have to budget for things, it costs us about $2K, and you'll still come up with relatively the same answer to some degree, right? Because in the way I structured this result, I kind of know the answer already. I'm kind of leveraging things towards what we already know is the answer. And in our case, it was doubling down on something like Facebook because of the time and the return, as well as email because of the time and the return. So when you throw budget in here, it just makes it even more obvious. And what surprises me, like I said, is how many times I've gone into businesses who didn't know any of these variables. When I say businesses didn't know any of these variables, I mean they didn't know anything. So I've gone into companies and asked them, hey, what are your networks? What are your top 5 networks? And they wouldn't be able to identify whether it was Meta or social or email or GA, or whether it was direct buys. They couldn't even identify what networks they had. Better yet, go into much deeper analysis, such as, all right, well, what are you spending on these networks? How many resources are you devoting to these networks? And then what's the return, right? And so if you're not constantly looking at these variables from an opportunity costs perspective, you're not only leaving money on the table, you are losing money. The table has a huge hole in it, and there are other people with their hands at the bottom of that table taking that money, because this money, although it's not going to you, it's not lost profits. All right, and we can go into economic profits and digital marketing. We could discuss that at a later date. But even though you're not making that money, someone else is. And what are they doing with that money? They are spending it on the networks that are working for them. And in some instances, I've seen instances where in a particular county, a company had an illustrative monopoly digitally, because they were able to outspend their competition week after week after week on one platform that they knew was working, because they had all the data identified. So let's take an example. If you're a law firm in DeKalb and you specialize in divorce, and you've identified that Google Ads for you is actually working, if you spend most of your effort on Google Ads and you continue to fix your landing pages, you continue to change your headlines, you continue to change the headline copy of the landing pages, and do analysis of this kind, you will find that over time, you will have most of the ad spend in that area, because the algorithm is poised to continue to identify who's getting the clicks and not change that. One thing Google Ads doesn't like is for people to click back. So if you do this kind of analysis right, you can have a large majority of the auction terms in your favor, because for the most part, the other bidders haven't done a similar analysis and won't be able to get market share. It's important, once again, to identify the networks, and most importantly, for some businesses, each of these variables are going to have a different weight. So you have to weight these differently. Your time is a different variable. And this is what many business owners just don't seem to understand when I do some coaching or when I do some teaching in some of my coursework that I do. I talk to business owners and I say, all right, hey, out of these variables, which one is the most important? And about 80% of people get this wrong. The most important variable in this analysis is the variable we can't control. It's time. It's time. So, hey, you can change the return on ad spend. You can fix that. You can change how much you budget. You can switch around the networks. But I'd be hard pressed to see you change the clock and turn back time. Or, hey, if you've got some sort of like back to the future way that you can do, jump on a skateboard or whatever it is and change time, please send that to me in the DMs down here and let me know. And I will follow you. And for the most part, I'll do this analysis for like this for you for free. All right. But hey, to keep things on a serious note, contact an established digital marketing agency such as InterSearchMedia and make sure they're doing this kind of analysis for you. And I don't care if they're using AI or whatever they have to use. All right, this can be done on the back of an envelope. All right, so make sure you're doing this analysis. Contact us if you need it to be done well.